This is a step-by-step tutorial on how to make a rope pump Model 1. For the production of the rope pump, the following workshop equipment and tools are recommended.
For power tools you need an electric welding machine, angle grinder, and hand drilling machine. This is an indication of the hand tools you need for construction of the rope pump. You can find the full list of hand tools in the construction manual at jacana.help/resources/water. For measuring tools, you need measuring tape, tri-square, ruler, scriber, and permanent markers. This is a list of consumable materials you need.
This is an indication of the materials needed for the construction of the rope pump.
You can find the full list of construction materials in the construction manual at jacana.help/resources/water.
To make good quality rope pumps and to produce faster, it is recommended to use production jigs. To make a jig, first, make a part and then use that part to make the jig. This video assumes the jigs are produced. The pump structure is made with galvanized pipes to reduce corrosion. Some pipe ends must be squeezed to make welding easier. Follow the steps on how to make a pump structure. Using half-inch galvanized pipe with a 2 mm wall thickness, cut 4 pieces of 950 mm length.
It is advised to fix parts in a vise when cutting using an angle grinder. Using half-inch galvanized pipe with 2 mm wall thickness, cut 4 pieces of 180 mm and 2 pieces of 120 mm. Take the 4 pieces of half-inch galvanized pipes, 180 mm, 120 mm length, and hammer on both ends. Some pipe ends need to be squeezed to make welding easier. Take the 4 cut half-inch galvanized pipes of 950 mm length and make one end flat with a heavy hammer. Mark bending and drilling points using jig number 6. Drill holes at distance of 15 mm from the end. First drill with 6 mm, then with 11 mm. Put the flat end of 35 mm in a strong vise and bend at 85 degrees. Prepare the angle iron parts, drill holes in the 2 parts. Use angle profile 25 mm by 25 mm by 3 mm. It is advised to fix parts in a vise when cutting using an angle grinder. Prepare the brake hook, We'll lock and weld it at an angle to the 3¼ bushing. For the brake hook bushings, use 3/4 GI pipe with a wall thickness of 2.5 millimeters.
Mark the bending point for the hook. Then hammer and make a hook.
Then mount the brake hook bushings to one leg. Make sure the brake hook bushings are in the right leg. Place parts in the first welding jig number 8. Tag weld the parts in place together with the angle iron part. Place the two sides in jig number 9 and weld all parts together with tag welds. Prepare the discharge pipe holder using 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1½ inch galvanized pipes. Prepare the first piece using 3/4 galvanized pipe with a wall thickness of 2.5 millimeters.
Weld 1 M10 nut. Use some grease or oil to avoid bolts getting stuck by welding.
Prepare the second piece using 1/2 inch and 1½ inch galvanized pipe. Use 40 mm black steel pipe with a wall thickness of 2.5 millimeters. Prepare a 30 mm length return pipe holder using 1 1/4 steel pipe with 2.5 mm wall thickness.
Tag weld the discharge pipe holder piece 1 to the pump structure. Tag weld the discharge pipe holder to the pump structure. Prepare 2 angle iron parts for the cover support and drill holes for the pop reverts. Use 25 mm by 25 mm with 3 mm thickness angle iron. Temporarily, weld the pieces together for easy drilling of holes for pop reverts.
Mark and drill holes for pop rivet using a 6 mm drill bit. Weld strips for M10 bolts and nuts.
The handle transfers the human power to the wheel. Due to the changing forces, the handle can break easily when poorly made or when inferior materials are used. Follow the steps on how to make a handle.
Measure and cut a 3/4 galvanized pipe with 2.5 mm wall thickness on the right length.
Cut slots of 60 degrees where the handle will be bent. Be careful not to cut the pipe completely.
Bend the pipe carefully and fit it into jig number 1. Eventually, make some adjustments.
Weld the cuts and make sure the cuts are totally closed, and take special care of this weld, as it is a known weak point of the pump. Remove the handle from the jig and weld the other side. The handle can break if the welds are not made well. Temporary slide in the spacer rings and measure the length of the PVC pipe. First, slide a 4 mm spacer ring on the handle and spot weld. Then slide the 32mm PVC pipe over the handle and weld the other ring to lock the PVC in position. Cool the welds with water to avoid burning the PVC pipe. Make sure the PVC pipe is able to rotate.
Cut materials for bushings. Use jig number 2 to mark drilling points.
Drill holes in strips for bushings. First use 6mm then 11mm drill bit.
Cut 2 pieces of 60mm length using 1-inch galvanized pipe with a wall thickness of 2.5mm for the bushings.
Drill one hole on top of the bushing using a 6mm drill bit.
It is advised to fix parts in a vise when cutting using an angle grinder. Weld the bushings to the strips. Mark the center for the bushings on the strip. The wheel lifts the rope and pistons by means of the friction between the rope and the V-shaped wheel. This wheel is made with 2 side pieces of a car tire. Look for good soft quality car tires. Here are the steps for production. Mark the 2 rings with 45mm width using a tool, a compass made of a 6mm round bar. Cut the rubber rings with a short sharp knife. Cutting may be easier by using some water. Prepare the hub using 1-inch galvanized pipe with a wall thickness of 2.5 mm and drill 2 holes using a 10 mm drill bit.
Mount 2 bolts to M10 nuts and weld the nuts to the hub. File inside the hub with a file to remove excess welding flux.
Cut 6 spokes using 10 mm round iron bar. Make the wheel clamps using 3/4 or 1-inch galvanized pipe with 2.5 mm wall thickness. Place the 2 tire parts on jig number 4.
Place the 6 clamps over the tire rings. Place the hub over the jig center pipe. Screw old bolts into the nuts of the hub to protect the screw threads while welding and tighten them to secure the hub. Clamp the 6 spokes between the clamp and hub. Weld the spokes onto the hub. Do this only with spot welding so the spokes can be adjusted. Weld the spokes on one side onto the tire clamps. Cool directly after each weld the clamp with a small bottle with a hole in the cap, to avoid burning the rubber. Separate the wheel carefully from the welding jig. Reinforce the wheel with more clamps. Then adjust the clamps. The cover prevents water to splash from the rope and also protects the rope from direct sunlight, as the lifespan of the rope will be reduced when exposed to direct sunlight. The wheel cover consists of 0.6 mm galvanized sheet metal. Before cutting, calculate and mark the most effective layout of the large metal sheet. Here are the steps to make the cover.
Use the jig number 5 and mark the sides, holes, and position of the folding lines for the bending.
Cut the sheet 400 mm by 1000 mm. Drill the holes for the bends and the pop rivets. Drill 4 holes that prevent cracks when bending the cover and make the cuts.
Bend the 2 long sides of the cover at 7 mm. Then bend the rest of the cover in the right shape using jig number 10.
Use a piece of wood and a hammer to avoid deforming the sheet. The guide box guides the rope at the bottom of the well, where the rope and pistons make a turn. It has an inlet pipe with a trumpet to guide the rope coming down into the well and is fixed to the rising main. Follow the steps on how to make a guide box.
Cut 2 pieces of 150 mm length using 1/2 inch galvanized pipe with 2 mm wall thickness and hammer to make them a bit flat. Then cut 2 pieces of 40 mm length using 3/4 galvanized pipe with 2.5 mm wall thickness for the rising main and return pipe.
Hammer to make them a bit flat. Assemble all the parts together and weld.
Make sure the welding is smooth on the bottom of the guide box to avoid damaging the rope when rotating. If possible, sand the guide box.
Cut 30 degrees angle at the top of the 40 mm length pipe for the rising main pipe holder to make sure the rising main pipe cannot turn and twist the rope. Bolt the bushings and cover support parts to the pump structure. First, slide the 7 mm length spacer rings to the handle and assemble the wheel and handle on the pump structure. Make sure the wheel is well centered between the two bushings. Weld the 7 mm spacers to the handle. Weld the brake hook to the pump structure at an angle. Install the cover on the pump structure and clamp it in place to the cover support. Use the measuring tape to center the cover in position. Drill holes in the cover for the poke rivets and clamp the cover in position. To avoid corrosion, it is essential to paint the whole pump or the black steel parts and the parts that are galvanized but are welded or damaged. Cover the parts with masking tape which are not supposed to be painted. Before painting, make sure you remove rust and treat all parts to be painted with sandpaper. Make sure that your hands are free of grease. Paint all parts with anti-rust paint, red oxide. Be sure that welds are painted well. Let painted objects dry in the shade, not in the sun. When the anti-rust is completely dry, make sure hands are free of grease when moving the object. Paint with the final paint, blue glossy paint, and allow painted objects to dry in the shade, not in the sun. The pump is now ready for installation. Watch the next video on how to install a rope pump on a borehole or an open well.